Welcome to the show, WWE Nation. This is SmackDown Spotlight, your update center for matches and news. Hit that bell, and let's begin. One familiar pillar of WWE's annual calendar may be quietly disappearing, and its absence could fundamentally change how Raw and SmackDown evolve moving forward. For years, the WWE Draft symbolized a reset button, a moment where rosters were reshuffled, rivalries refreshed, and new opportunities emerged. But recent developments suggest that tradition may be coming to an end. At the same time, layered storytelling continues to unfold elsewhere, particularly involving Austin Theory, Seth Rollins, and the growing mystery surrounding the Vision. With creative shifts happening behind the scenes and long-term narratives possibly intersecting, WWE appears to be entering a new era of flexibility, unpredictability, and subtle storytelling. What seems like isolated changes may actually be connected pieces of a much larger creative transformation. The Draft as a defining tradition. For many years, the WWE Draft was more than just an event. It represented a new beginning. Fans viewed it as the unofficial start of a new season, where Raw and SmackDown received fresh identities. Entire rosters could change overnight, opening the door for new feuds, unexpected alliances, and exciting call-ups from NXT. The Draft allowed WWE to address roster depth issues, elevate overlooked talent, and refresh stagnant divisions. It was a spectacle filled with legends announcing picks, genuine surprises, and long-term implications. The excitement wasn't just about who went where, but about what those changes meant for the future. Removing that annual reset removes a familiar sense of structure fans had come to rely on. Why fans wanted the Draft back recently, fan demand for the Draft has grown louder due to visible roster imbalance. Certain divisions feel overcrowded, while others feel completely barren. SmackDown's women's division, for example, has struggled with depth at the top, leaving champions with few credible challengers. Meanwhile, factions like the Vision have remained locked in repetitive rivalries for months. The Draft offered a simple solution: movement, new opponents, fresh matchups, and reinvigorated stories. It allowed WWE to correct creative stagnation quickly. Without it, fans worry that some divisions may continue spinning their wheels. The absence of the Draft places greater pressure on creative decisions to actively and consistently adjust rosters throughout the year. The end of the Draft concept? According to recent reports, WWE may be stepping away from the Draft entirely. No event followed WrestleMania 41, no late-year draft occurred, and now indications suggest the concept may be retired altogether. Instead of one major shakeup, WWE appears to be shifting toward a year-round trade system. Talent may move between brands whenever it serves the story. This approach mirrors real sports trades rather than seasonal drafts. An early example of this system was when LA Knight quietly transitioned to Raw without fanfare. The company seems to prefer organic roster movement rather than scheduled upheaval. While practical, this change represents a philosophical shift in how WWE approaches long-term planning. Trades as the new creative tool. The trade system offers flexibility that the Draft never could. Creative teams are no longer restricted to a specific window to refresh rosters. Moves can happen instantly when storylines demand it. This allows WWE to react quickly to injuries, momentum shifts, and fan reactions. Trades can also feel more realistic and story-driven rather than procedural. However, the challenge lies in execution. Without a major event spotlighting these changes, casual viewers may miss the significance of roster moves. The Draft created moments, trades create adjustments. WWE will need to ensure these moves feel impactful, intentional, and clearly communicated to maintain audience engagement. How NXT call-ups will work. Now without the Draft, NXT call-ups will follow a new path. WWE has already begun the concept of free agent status. Talent can appear on Raw and SmackDown temporarily before officially signing with a brand. This approach allows audiences to get familiar with emerging stars before they commit. It also gives creative teams more time to evaluate fit and reaction. Rather than being thrust into the spotlight during draft night, NXT talent can be eased into the main roster organically. While this method lacks spectacle, it may result in smoother transitions and better long-term positioning for developing stars. The loss of draft. Spectacle. The biggest downside to this shift is the loss of the draft's excitement. Fans loved the unpredictability, the surprise reactions, and the feeling that anything could happen. Legends announcing picks added prestige, while sudden moves created immediate buzz. Trades, by comparison, feel quieter. They may be effective, but they don't generate the same emotional response. WWE will need to find new ways to create moments that feel just as big. Without that annual event, maintaining excitement around roster changes becomes a creative challenge. Nostalgia plays a role here, and losing a fan-favorite tradition will take time to adjust to. Austin Theory and the Masked Mystery. Parallel to these structural changes, a fascinating storyline continues to unfold involving Austin Theory. When a masked figure appeared using Seth Rollins' signature moves, fans immediately questioned the motive. The curb stomp in particular stood out. At the time, theories ranged from misdirection to deeper loyalty. The mystery intensified because the masked individual avoided using their own moveset, instead borrowing from Rollins' arsenal. This suggested purpose rather than coincidence. Once the mask came off and Theory was revealed, many assumed the mystery was solved. Surprisingly, it wasn't. Instead, new questions emerged, reshaping the narrative entirely. The curb stomp that refuses to disappear. Even after being unmasked, Austin Theory continued using the curb stomp. This choice reignited speculation. Why abandon his own finisher? Why continue using Seth Rollins' signature move? In storyline terms, moves matter. They communicate allegiance, inspiration, and intent. Theory's continued use of the stomp feels deliberate, almost symbolic. It suggests that the earlier mystery wasn't just a disguise, but part of something ongoing. WWE storytelling often uses repetition to signal meaning, and this repetition feels intentional. Whether it leads somewhere significant or fades quietly remains uncertain. But the unanswered question keeps fans engaged. Revisiting Seth Rollins' past influence. One compelling theory ties back to Seth Rollins' past leadership. Years ago, Rollins led a faction where young Austin Theory was personally chosen and mentored. That on-screen history provides emotional weight to the current storyline. If Theory is acting as an insider within the vision, it transforms the narrative into long-term storytelling. Rollins, manipulating events from afar, even while absent, would add depth to his eventual return. It reframes Theory not as a pawn, but as a trusted ally, executing a plan years in the making. WWE rarely revisits past relationships this deeply, which makes the possibility even more intriguing. What this means moving forward. Between the possible end of the draft and the layered storytelling involving Theory and Rollins, WWE appears to be embracing subtle, long-term narrative development. Changes are happening quietly rather than explosively. If executed well, this approach could lead to richer stories and greater flexibility. However, it also risks losing the clarity and excitement fans expect. Whether the trade system replaces the draft successfully and whether the Theory storyline reaches meaningful payoff remains to be seen. What's clear is that WWE is evolving, and in that evolution, patience, attention, and storytelling consistency will determine whether these changes elevate the product or leave fans wanting more.